If you're really curious on what I felt about this episode after watching it for the first time 4 years ago, is the fact that I thought that Garnet was telling the story towards Steven, not the other way around. That is how little I remember these episodes, and after rewatching this episode, it wasn't as good as I remembered it, but at the same time, it kind of shows that from the point of view of Steven, I don't even think that Garnet will be able to come up with anything that Steven had described in this episode. This episode being in the point of view of Steven, well, he imagines what Garnet does in her day when it comes to Garnet's universe, which is the title of this episode. It's mainly inspiration from video games and the characters with the same voice actors of Pearl and Amethyst, Hoppy and Hopple. I'm gonna be really real with you. Rewatching this episode gave me video game vibes at most, and for the character Garnet in this, well, Steven is trying a lot to make Garnet look good. I found that clip of her saying no at the end was a lot more out of context after not remembering it actually came from this episode alone. And to tell you the truth, this episode, while being its own thing and it's mainly in the point of view of Steven, it's honestly a really entertaining episode and a big step up over the last episode that I reviewed. This episode, with it taking inspiration from video games, while I'm not really into video games like I used to, especially back in 2020, I have to admit, they literally did a good job into making this episode entertaining while also making Garnet look good, but this is Steven imagining Garnet being the way that she is when it comes to her day, even though Garnet would think otherwise. And remember when I said in my last video, well, Wagnardno is getting his just desserts from Garnet? To tell you the truth, with him being Wango in this, I'm gonna be really truthfully honest, the people who made this episode clearly knew that they made Wagnardno a terrible character, and if they didn't have a chance to make him a better character, then I'm pretty sure they really made this episode the way it is, and they have no regrets. And considering that Foxman has the same voice of Lars, I'm starting to convince that Foxman will probably have a better future in comparison to Wingo, because as far as I'm concerned, if we were in this universe rather than the real Steven universe, then as far as I'm concerned, there's always a lose-lose situation when it comes to Wingo or Wagnardno. If people can't see the irony in this, then I don't know what they see, if they ever binge-watch this show a second time. When it comes to Garnet in this episode, since that this is still the imagination of Steven, to tell you the truth, for how Steven sees Garnet in this, and this is before he learned or realized that she is a fusion, I'm gonna be truthful that with this also taking place before Future Vision, Steven just sees Garnet as the better crystal gem in comparison to Amethyst and Pearl. And while it may be debatable, the way I see it, since that those characters didn't have Pearl universe or Amethyst universe, which would have been good ideas for episodes, with Garnet being the only character having this type of episode, it kind of shows that Steven prefers Garnet over Pearl and Amethyst. It may be selfish, but at the same time, that's literally what he feels when it comes to his imagination of Garnet. Every time I look at Garnet in this episode, it really feels like that Steven really wants Garnet to be the hero that he sees, and in all honestly, it actually aged a lot more better for how the two of the relationship has improved a lot more in comparison to Pearl and Amethyst. Granted, you can't always have the same gem to be as Garnet, which makes sense, they need to be their own characters. But Garnet going Super Satan against Wingo with her rage of the photo that she has with her and Steven. To tell you the truth, that just shows that Steven sees Garnet a lot more in comparison to Pearl and Amethyst. So for me personally, for how Steven imagines Garnet getting the gemstone isn't what Garnet went through, it kind of shows that Steven being the person that he is in season 1 has a happy place that will only go away as time progresses. Because as far as I'm concerned, children like him may have these imaginations, but at the same time, you know that those imaginations don't go on forever. I mean, there may be imaginations, but at the same time, not in the way of what Steven thought from this episode. So all in all, this episode was really entertaining, and as far as I'm concerned for filler episodes from season 1, this was definitely one of the best filler episodes. I'm giving this episode a 7.5 out of 10.